Well, there we go. That's a bit more like it, isn't it? Norwich City picking up 3 points away at Rotherham to take the Canaries up to 4th in the Championship table. A really, I want to say impressive, a really pleasing day for Norwich City and a really important win. I think we all needed that, didn't we? Particularly after Wednesday's draw against QPR. I'm going to wait for a few of you to join the stream first. This was a very last minute thing, so we shall give you all some time to join. Leave your comments down in the YouTube comment section below, and we'll hopefully have some optimism installed in all of us this evening. A warm welcome to Dan, the first commenter of the evening. Thanks for joining, Dan. Lots to speak about tonight. Goals for Aaron Ramsey and Kenny McLean. Another goal for Aaron Ramsey. He's in a lovely little bit of form at the moment, isn't he? The 19-year-old on loan from Aston Villa. I'm sure there's some Villa fans watching him with eager eyes after his recent few weeks. Good evening to all of you joining in. Graham, hello. Good performance today. It was much better, wasn't it, Graham? It really was. Good evening to Callum, Callin, Adam, Liam, Charlie, Luke. A clear penalty for Rotherham. Shocking officiating. Was that the one where he was booked for diving? I was watching it on a very much a legal stream, so I didn't really see it in high definition. Certainly didn't see a replay. It did look as if Norwich should have had a penalty, though, a handball. What was that? About 70 minutes into the game. So look, I'm of the opinion that these things level out across the course of the season. But sorry you're feeling hard done by, Charlie, and I hope you're well, my friend. Look, let's get into things. A topsy-turvy game, and it was a truly dramatic 49th and 50th minute. Rotherham pull level on 49 minutes. Norwich go back ahead on 50 minutes. And then from then on, it never really looked like Rotherham were getting back into it. There was that moment that I think Charlie was talking about earlier where it looked as if there could have been a penalty for Rotherham. It was given as a dive for the Rotherham player. I'm seeing a clear bias between the Rotherham and the Norwich City fans in here. Some saying it was a clear dive. Some saying it was an absolute stonewall penalty. The end result was it wasn't given, and Norwich City walk away with 3 points. There was a slight change in the lineup. Kenny McLean returned to the side as well as Josh Sargent. Probably slightly unfortunate for Todd Cantwell to miss out on the starting 11. I think he's been one of the better players in the last couple of weeks, but Josh Sargent coming back in, he probably felt as if he was undroppable, and I thought he added an element of dynamism that we maybe haven't seen from Todd, and we wouldn't do because they're completely different players. So it was pleasing to see Josh Sargent back in there. I thought he could have got a goal today. It was a really good save from the Rotherham keeper. Johansson one-on-one. So fair play to him. But I thought he looked good, Josh Sargent. I think his reintroduction back into the side can only be a good thing for Norwich. I think much like the game against QPR that I didn't make a video on, but I thought we were unlucky not to win that. We created some big chances again, and it felt as if even when we weren't winning at the start of the season, Norwich City were creating chances, and they were creating big chances. The last few weeks last few months really, what was it? 1 win in 8, 1 win in 7 before today. We weren't creating anything major. I think that was the big concern. But today, 13 shots, expected goals of 2. You'll take that. I think if you put up those kind of numbers across the course of the season, you'll win a fair majority of matches. Amazingly, again, another really interesting day in the Championship. Burnley shipped 5 to Sheffield United. So it's getting quite congested up at the top there. We're on 32 points. We've leapfrogged QPR, who were beaten today at home to West Brom. So now we're only 4 points from Blackburn in second, who are probably slightly ahead of where they should be in terms of numbers. And suddenly looking in an okay position. Middlesbrough at home next week, win that, and you go into the World Cup feeling far better than you did a couple of weeks ago. It's small margins, and I think incredibly, I haven't seen too many messages and comments surrounding Dean Smith at the moment, and I'm sure we'll get onto that shortly. Also, yeah, Simon, good point. Well done to Kings Lynn, who are into the FA Cup second round after beating Doncaster away from home. I think League Two Doncaster. So that's a huge win for Kings Lynn. I know they took a lot of fans up there. So a successful day up north for the two Norfolk clubs there. Adam says he'd love to play Kings Lynn in the Cup. You never know. They only need to get through another round, and then they will be in the pot with the likes of Norwich and other massive clubs. Let's get this up from Jason, who says, I was surprised to see Todd Cantwell dropped. What beat you on there, Jason? Is that Chroma? Looks like Chroma. But fair, it worked. Yeah, I think that the good thing that Dean Smith has is he has depth. You look at some of the players that didn't even make the squad today. Remarkable depth. And we have depth in those forward areas. I mean, you look kind of back to the start of the season, and there are players who were getting into the side that are nowhere near it now. There's been a remarkable kind of shift in that, but it was a slightly different system. I thought another man that needs a mention today is Gabriel Sara, who yes was at fault for the Rotherham's equaliser, but I thought was with the bit of quality that we maybe haven't seen in recent weeks. And to get Gabriel Sara firing, and he should be firing, he was our record signing, he will be the difference between winning games and drawing games. I think we saw that today. There were a lovely few moments late on in that second half where he threaded some really nice through balls in, and we maybe could have added a third. So an impressive performance from Gabriel Sara today, and I think he's probably been more effective for Norwich City than Marcelino Nunez has, and Marcelino Nunez has been the one that's probably picked up the majority of plaudits. So pleasing day for Gabriel Sara. Julian Scott, welcome to the show, my friend. He says, I like the way that Hayden's slowly getting up to speed, starting to make a nice difference, shielding defence, breaking up opposition, attacking play. Could he be Tete's replacement? I think you're spot on, Julian. I think Isaac Hayden, I think we all knew that, you know, if we could get him in the side and if we could get him fit, he was going to be an influential player for Norwich City. He's a bit of quality. And I think we look far more settled in when the opposition have got possession than we did before. It all just looks a little bit more organised in terms of our shape, our defensive shape. I think QPR created a few decent chances, but mainly crossing positions. And again, today, Rotherham were limited with what they had in terms of going forwards. I think that's largely down to Isaac Hayden. And we need a player like that because there are a lot of attacking players on the pitch. So Isaac Hayden coming in, shoring things up slightly can only be good. There's been a few nervy moments, hasn't there, in recent weeks where he's hit the deck and you're just hoping he gets up in one piece. But he's got a week's rest now before we go again against Middlesbrough. And you would hope he'd be, fully fit and ready to go for that. And then you've got a World Cup break where he can really get back up to speed, which is pleasing. Tom raises a good point with Dimianulis. Will he get back in with McCallum playing so well? I must say, I thought McCallum looked slightly tired, maybe just not quite up to match fitness yet against QPR. I thought he looked far better today. I think Dimianulis on his day is one of our best players, but I think Dean Smith is very much kind of a form-driven manager. He will not leave players in there if they're not playing well. On the flip side, he won't take players out if they're playing well. And Sam McCallum is very much in that bracket. He's had a good couple of weeks, and it was nice to see Max Aarons in there today. I thought Dean Smith got it spot on dropping him for Sam Byram. I thought he looked fatigued. I thought he looked slightly nervy in possession, different class today. It shows like Max Aarons has played an astonishing amount of football in the last few years. He's still very young. I think we forget that because he's played so much. But pleasing to see Max back in there today. Pleasing to see him put in a really decent performance. Here we go. This is exactly what I was saying earlier, Matty. The penalty that wasn't given for handball, the Norwich, I think it was crossed in from Pookie or Cantwell. A hand went up from the Rotherham defender. It clearly hit the hand. Was it too close? That's up to referee's interpretation, isn't it? But it was very similar to the penalty that we gave away at Burnley, the deciding goal in that game. Jay Rodriguez tucked home late on. Again, not seeing too much chat around Dean Smith in the comments. Matthew Doyle, now it's back to Smith in. Look, I don't think I've been. I think I've been relatively supportive of Dean Smith for all of this season. I think there's been moments where it has looked like he's under serious pressure. I'm treading the line. I don't think Dean Smith will get sacked. Certainly before the World Cup. I don't think he will get sacked unless it gets really, really bad. And I think the Norwich hierarchy have looked at this season and gone, even when we've gone, 1 win in 9 or whatever it was, we were still within touching distance of the top 2. And that will be their stance. It gets expensive when you start sacking managers, and Norwich City aren't in the financial position at the moment to do that unless they have a astonishingly good manager lined up. And I don't think there's anyone out there who would instantly turn things around at this football club. I think a lot of what we've seen this season, particularly with atmosphere and disconnect, I keep hearing that buzzword, a lot of that's not to do with Dean Smith. And I think actually what we've seen in a fair majority of games this season has been relatively pleasing. There's been a lot of dross as well thrown in there. But you ask, I'd say 23 other championship clubs, maybe barring Burnley, but even they got beat and well beaten today. A lot of them would say the same. Everyone's seen a lot of dross this season. Sheffield United went on a really poor run when we should have beat them. Blackburn have lost games that they shouldn't have done, and they're second in the division. Watford have lost a hell of a lot of games this season. They're 3 points behind us. So I think it's easy, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's very easy as a football fan to get incredibly insular and only looking at what you're doing. Actually, in the grand scheme of things in the Championship, Norwich City aren't doing too badly. And you've also got to look at who else is out there to get. I'll hear Russell Martin. I don't think it's the right time for Russ. I think he needs a really stable board around him, and I don't think we've particularly got that at the moment. And yeah, I think as Graham says there, replacing Smith is not going to happen. No need to even talk about it. Well, I think the reason we're talking about it is because a lot of people are still very anti-Dean Smith. But I agree. I don't think it's going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen before the World Cup. I think the only thing Norwich City and Norwich City fans now need to concentrate on going into next week is beating Middlesbrough. You've then got the opportunity to go third in the division if we were to win that and other results go our way, and then suddenly you could potentially be only 3-4 points off top. Suddenly things look rather good. Let's have a look here. A few more questions and then I'm going to head off. Just a quick instant match reaction this evening. Jason, very positive. Smith's the man. Give him 2 wingers to suit his system and watch his team go. I think that's probably been the main criticism of Dean Smith. Is it has felt he's tried to shoehorn players into positions that maybe they don't suit. I think Kieran Down and Todd Cantwell are the perfect examples. They're not wingers. They're not quick enough to be wingers, but throw them in the number 10 and they suddenly become really influential. So who knows? I think Sargent is another one who has maybe hasn't been as has kind of worked as a winger, but he's not a winger. I think you put Sargent through the middle and suddenly scores quite a few more goals than he already has. So maybe there's a slight reluctance to change system. And maybe if we had have changed systems, we would have won a few more games this season. But it hasn't happened, and that's the way he's looking to go. I don't think it's going to change in the January transfer window. I don't think we'll make any signings at all. I don't think the money is there unless we make a big sale, and I also don't see that happening. So I think we kind of need to stick in there. Churchy says, where does Alameda fit in after the World Cup? Well, I saw a tweet earlier that basically said, this is an incredibly bloated squad. You've got a lot of players to return from injury. Throw Alameda into that mix. And you've also got a lot of players that didn't make the squad today. There's a lot of people at Norwich City, players that are probably desperately unhappy that they're not making the team at the moment. But it's an incredibly deep squad. And I think as the season progresses, that could only be a good thing for Dean Smith, because you will see players drop out with injury through sheer intensity of workload. So I think that's a positive rather than a negative. And I think Alameda will get given a chance this season. I think we saw it, didn't we, under, was it under Dean Smith or was it under Daniel Farker last season? I think it was under Dean Smith, where we hit a decent patch of form. It was a very small patch of form in the Premier League, but we saw it with that kind of front three, with Sargent, Eder and Pookie, I think. So Eder, I think, could probably fit in that 3, maybe out on the wing. Right, I'm going to call it a day there. I thought we were far better today. I thought we created more big chances. We've got a really interesting podcast coming on Tuesday with Connor Southwell of the EDP. We'll be going far more in depth to it then. Enjoy your Saturday evening. A big well done to Aaron Ramsey and Kenny McLean, the goal scorers today. Rotherham were beaten 2-1 by the mighty Norwich City at the New York Stadium. It lifts Norwich City to 4th in the Championship. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.